Hello and welcome back to the Mid-Am Podcast. We are your hosts. My name's Tyler Munns, and on the other side from the screen from me is my good friend Nathan Firmasu.
Hello.
And tonight we're chopping it up. Get your chef's knives out. Get the cutting board out. Grab that daikon because we're chopping it up.
Wake up.
But before we do, we would be remiss if we did not thank the sponsor, the title sponsor of our podcast, Edel Golf. Hold on.
Hello.
There it is.
There it is. Man, I recently reshafted my 4-iron. I put a little
The Tur
the Tur
Tur
AD
80. Yeah.
in the 4-iron just to get a little bit more height, a little bit more steeper of a landing angle on that guy. Haven't actually hit it, but man, I just reminded of how pretty these golf clubs are. How
Yes.
just like aesthetically pleasing. And I think, when you're talking about irons, and I don't think anyone would disagree necessarily that like a lot of what it comes down to, especially when you get into the more players irons, form factors, it's like, man, a blade's a blade, right? For the most part. When you're looking down and you feel it, confidence, like is something that it elicits confidence. Like that is almost in the same way like putters are. Like that is such an important part of like choosing your irons. And I will say that looking down at my SMS Pros and the SMS that I have in the 5 and 4 iron, like confidence is certainly an emotion or feeling that that those golf clubs elicit, and then it's backed up by just like a ton of performance. And I can't say enough good things about their irons and their wedges, and then obviously their putters are also fantastic as well. But I'm still like, even I've been playing we've been playing these irons for what, like 7 or 8 months now.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, basically the entire season.
Right. I'm just like the fact that like, and hey man, hand up. I'm a gear slut. Like I freaking love golf clubs, and I get tired of golf clubs pretty quickly. I am still giddy over these irons and wedges every time I look down at them. And like, I cannot say that about any other set of clubs that I've had. Like, so I don't know.
I just can't imagine replacing them with anything. Like what else? What else is anybody going to do to make something better? Like in the next 8 years?
Well, that's what we were talking about last time we played. It was like, dude, hopefully Adele wants to continue working with us, but even if they don't, as long as they're making irons, I will be playing these irons. Like they're so good. I'm probably going to be due to replacing a wedge or two next season, just because I've been really grinding on the short game. It's really fantastic product. We highly recommend you check them out. They've got some great deals going on right now for Black Friday. They've got their wedges are a really fantastic price. They have a free 4-iron with a purchase of like a full set of pitching wedge through 5-iron on their SMS and SMS Pros. So highly suggest you check out everything that Adele has to offer at edelgolf.com. That's EDELGOLF.com. Again, thank you to the folks at Adele for sponsoring the Mid-Am Podcast. We are eternally grateful. All right, chopping it up. So to start, I wanted to just read something that I wrote. I've been kind of reflecting over the last few days, and had a little got called to the carpet, so to speak, about a week ago, and it just made me pause and think about my relationship with golf and how I conduct myself as a result. And it wasn't a pleasant period of reflection. Yeah, man. So I'll just read it and then and then
Sure.
maybe it'll make more sense.
Yeah.
All right. I am very good at being a very bad time. I'm talking Hall of Fame levels of talent. I could write a book on all the things that have influenced me throughout my life that manifested this generational skill set, but all that would be is a thinly veiled attempt at soliciting sympathy. I do not deserve sympathy. I was recently called out for bringing negativity into a situation that did not warrant it. The PR team in my head immediately went into crisis mode, furiously analyzing every previous interaction to find a crack in the claims being directed towards me and my behavior. It took a concerted effort to override that reaction and allow the statements to be absorbed and digested. When I took off the mental blindfold and earplugs I had installed to protect my own ego, I could see this most recent scene was just a copy of countless previous interactions that had one thing in common. I acted selfishly and ruined someone else's experience as a result. I am ashamed. I have once again made the mistake of regarding my experience as the most important perspective, neglecting to recognize that I am no one else's main character. I place the burden of my unrealistic expectations on the shoulders of those who did not ask nor consent to share the load. As someone who has outwardly condemned modern American culture for being far too individualistic, the irony and the hypocrisy is not lost on me. My behavior has irreparably damaged future opportunities to interact with genuine and interesting people, and I have to begin the process of mourning the consequence of my behavior. There's too much negativity in the world to voluntarily spend time with people who seemingly seek to inject more. I can no longer disguise my insecurities with a mask of ambition and expect there to be anyone left standing beside me when my potential is realized. Standing on the podium in an empty room will not fill the void. That's all to say, I've revisited my goals as a player for 2025. I have a responsibility to my fellow playing partners to inspire and uplift. The pursuit of excellence I can no longer endure at the expense of others. Ultimately, if you wouldn't invite me to play with you next weekend after finishing out on the 18th, I have failed to live up to my potential, regardless of the numbers I write down on my scorecard. The guys from the Best Ball podcast said it best: golf is people. So that's all to say. I think that I've hid behind, or I've propped up the like ambition as this human shield, so to speak. When it comes to like the intensity that I bring to the course when I'm out playing, like I have ambition. I want to be really good at this game. I want to be a good tournament player. I want to post a good score. I want to, shoot scores that I feel like I should shoot. And when that doesn't happen, I mean, you've seen it. I don't have the greatest attitude. I don't have it, that. Sorry, I shouldn't sugarcoat it. I have a really fucking bad attitude. And like, it's exhausting. It's in most cases very inappropriate. And I know even in the moment and afterwards, I tend to try to ignore it, that like, I know it negatively affects other people. I'm not totally, um, oblivious to the external impact that behavior has on, the people around me. And I guess I've just always tried to protect my own ego by saying or telling myself that it's like, oh, well, they just, they don't take it as seriously as you do. Like they don't care as much. And while that may or may not be true, it doesn't really matter. What does matter is that I took an experience that should be pleasant no matter what happens, because at the end of the day, this is recreational for all of us. None of us is making a living doing this. It's not life or death. We're not curing cancer. We're putting a tiny urethane golf ball into a hole in the ground. Um, and to act as though it's anything more than that is inappropriate. And so I have spent the last week or so, like I said, I got someone brought it up, and it just like I had this like flash flood of every experience that was similar to that experience. Kind of just all came in at once, and it was just like, damn, dude, yeah, dude, that's not cool. What I did was not cool, and I just was like, I have to deal with the consequences of that. And like one of the consequences is like feeling pretty shitty about myself and feeling really sorry about um, how I impacted other people negatively, because I don't want, like, that's not my intention. I don't want to like harsh anyone's vibe. Um, I, routinely talk about how the world would be a better place if people put other people ahead of themselves in the way that they think, in the way that they make decisions. And then just to turn around and like completely not do that is very disingenuous. And I don't seek to be that kind of a person. And so, I mentioned a couple weeks ago or a few weeks ago on, our review of the 2024 season, talking about some of my goals for next year. I think I kind of have to supersede everything that I've said before and say that my number one goal for 2025 is, no matter um, what happens on the course, I want to be the most fun person that you've ever played golf with. Because I think I owe that to anyone who's playing golf with me, because I want to be the type of person that puts other people ahead of themselves. Like, I want to be known as a selfless person. I want to be known as a kind person. And so, yeah, I mean, that's like, it's been an interesting week, like reflecting on that and not, and trying to like feel the negative emotions and like work through the like shame and remorse and regret in like a way that's not pity. It's more of like facing the music and, you know, like try, like genuinely trying to learn from it, genuinely trying to um, influence change in myself so that, you know, I don't feel as though this is something that could come up again. So like, I'd put on the notes that like I have a new goal for 2025, and that was really spurred by someone saying like, dude, like you kind of brought the vibe down and it impacted other people, and I'm just don't want anyone to ever say that about me again. And selfishly, I suspect that I will probably play better golf if if I just focus on everything other than the golf. And people, it's like, God, we've read so many books and listened to so many mental game experts say the exact same thing, but I think I need to frame it in a way that's like, hey, man, it's my responsibility, I think, as like a steward of the game, to make sure that other people have a good time. And I think if I do that, then I'm almost ensuring that I'll have a good time. And, um, you know, it becomes a situation where like the worst case scenario is like I've got some new cool people, or established cool people to like continue to play golf with. Because you can only have so many first or second or third impressions until people are just like, nah, dude, I don't want to play with that guy anymore. And I don't want to be that guy. So yeah, that is, I guess, a very long-winded way of saying that next year, my number one goal is to be a good time on the golf course. So
So I figured out if from P4 to P5.5, if I come out a little bit and then start straightening the trail arm down to P6, then through impact, I can get left and rotate a little bit better
That's right.
through 7 and 8, and then, you know, throw on the brakes, rehinge up to
Oh,
9 and have that
I
soft
mean,
finish.
if you're talking about throwing on the brakes,
Um,
we're talking
yeah,
P7. You're way too late, dude. You're
yeah,
way too late.
exactly. Yeah,
You're
no,
so
no, no,
late.
no, it's g yeah. There's a lot there, dude. I mean, I'll I'll commend you for, and I mean, we've already kinda messaged a little bit, but, back and forth because we're friends in real life, people. Um,
Believe it or not.
Believe it or not, he doesn't just pay me. No, but I mean, y I think there are not enough people in the world that practice humbling self-reflection or are willing to. Um, and I think that also some of your behavior is, it's not unreasonable either. Like, people want you, nobody sets out to play shitty golf. Like, you want to play well, you want to do these things. We work hard, we spend a lot of time. You would hope that things um pan out in a certain way, and they don't, and that's frustrating, and
Mhm.
it's reasonable to be frustrated. But yes, you it
We're
has been a
also
problem for you.
adults, and
Yeah, yeah,
we have,
yeah,
like, emotional like, we have
yeah.
the ability to regulate emotions,
Oh, yeah. No,
and
I'm not absolving you of anything.
yeah, yeah.
I'm just saying, like, it's I think multiple things can be true of a person, in that you're not wrong in feeling the ways that you've felt on the golf course, but you are wrong in how you've dealt with it and how you've let it
I
influence
let
other
it get the
people.
best of me,
Yeah,
and I let it
and yeah, ultimately, I do agree. You're gonna shave at least 3 strokes around, um,
yeah,
just
probably.
from not having a 3-hole shit fit,
Yeah,
basically, if not more. I
yeah,
mean, I've done that. We've all done it. So, good on you for saying, "This is a problem and I wanna fix it." You're gonna screw up,
oh, yeah,
but that's that's the human condition, you know?
certainly.
We do the things that we don't want to do, and we don't do the things that we want to do, and, um, best intentions and all that. But, I think it's always, um, commendable for someone to put their hand up and say, "Yeah, that's on me, and I'm gonna try and do better." And so, yeah, I mean, I don't have anything to add.
Yeah,
I
I
think
mean,
you, yeah.
it's yeah, and again, I'm like, I didn't, bring it up. I didn't, like, publicize it for any other reason that is just, like, I want anyone who's ever interacted with me and had a negative, um, experience to, like, understand that, like, I recognize it and I am remorseful, and I'm not oblivious to it, and I don't expect anyone to, you know, take this as like, oh, like, let's, give him another chance. Like, fully understand if you're like, yeah, good for you, dude. Not not on me to, like, see if you're gonna follow through with that. And that's not my expectation. It's more or less like, hey, I just want you to know that, like, I was wrong. And I am sorry, genuinely, and I'm gonna work on it. And if I ever have the opportunity to play with, folks that maybe had a negative experience with me in the past, like, I just want them to know that this is something that is at the forefront of my mind. And am I gonna be perfect moving forward? Absolutely not. Because that's just how things are. You try to overcorrect and then you work your way back to the middle. And so there are going to be times where my emotions will get the best of me. I'm not perfect, but I fully suspect that it'll be very few and far between moving forward. And so, like, take that for whatever you will. Again, I don't expect anyone to do or say or feel in any certain way. Truly, this was for me. This was for me to like kind of put it out there, to take accountability, to parse out my thoughts. Yeah.
Sure.
So we'll leave it at that.
Yeah.
All right. Number.
So, um,
Go ahead.
well, yeah. So if you get your rotational forces peaking before your lateral forces and your verticals, then you're going to spin out of rotation. You're going to run out of rotation too soon, in which
Exactly.
case then you're going to have a
You're gonna
tangent
get
line.
stuck.
You're
You're
not
gonna
going to
get
be
so
the
stuck, dude.
centrifugal force is going to overwhelm the centripetal force, and then
And then you're over
everything's
the
going to
top.
run out away from you. You're stuck. You're
You're
casting it out.
strapped. You're over the top. You're
You're
casting.
stuck.
You're
You're dumping.
flipping.
You're flipping. It's terrible.
Yeah. It's not good. It's
So
just not good.
yeah.
Um,
Anyway,
Anywho, all right, number 2. There is no smooth segue away from that. But all right, so we are fully in off-season mode, right? Um, it's raining. It's pissing rain. I actually went out and did a little bit of chipping practice out at Glendo. Um, it was wet, but I think I got some good work in. But one of the things that, as I've played a couple of rounds since, well, what I don't know, I played like 2 rounds probably in the last 6 weeks. Both of them though were at Tristing, and both of them I shot 75 and I shot 77.
yeah.
In the midst of like, so I don't know if you remember, you probably do, but I said I'm not going to hit any practice shots over 30 yards. I haven't done that. I have been true. I have not hit a single practice shot over 30 yards outside of like warming up pre-round since I said I was going to do that, since I broke down the net, which is like a month ago probably.
Yeah.
And to go out and shoot 75 and 77, at 6,800 yards, and not that Tristing Tree is like a particularly tough course, but
It
I
has its
will
ass.
say that like, when I play, when I played, whatever it was last week, it was 6,800 yards, but like zero, like my drives were spinning back. Like it was so wet. Right. So, I mean, like 77 with like 3 really dumb bogeys in a row. I don't know, whatever. That's all to say that like a big part, I think, of that success has been this whole concept of like falling in love with the target and being so target focused that I get away from the mechanical aspects. And what I found is that I have this like overwhelming feeling of comfort um, that I feel when I'm like, okay, all I got to do is think about the target and whatever happens, happens. But it's just, I hope that this feeling stays for a while. It's not just like some honeymoon thing, because it's just been really, like, really nice to almost disassociate completely from any mechanical thought or any expectation of result. Truly,
Yeah.
it's more about just like, it's not even did the ball go to the target. It's like, did you fully focus and commit to the target? And
Sure.
that's kind of where I've been grading myself, shot to shot. And so far, it's worked very well. And like from a result standpoint, it's been fantastic, especially on the putting green. I've really hit, like, in the last 2 rounds, I can count 4 putts in my head where I truly hit bad putts, and I can say without question that is because I was not focused on the target. I was thinking about like mechanics or something outside of the target. And
Sure.
every other putt, I feel like I hit really, really good putts. So yeah, it's more just like, man, the mental stuff. We say it and we talk about it a lot. And it's like, oh man, it's so important. Sometimes I don't believe it, and I just,
This
Well, it's not that I don't believe it. It's like I guess I just think that like my issues are more mechanical in nature,
Sure.
technique, execution. But it's like, man, maybe
Yeah.
it's not. Maybe it's like, like you can figure out a way to get around if you can just think or not think about the things that you are supposed to think or not supposed to think about.
Yeah.
Kind of
Yeah.
interesting. It's been interesting.
Um, I mean, that goes back to one of my goals for the whole year was kind of figuring out processes, and, like, kind of fell into that whole target thing earlier in the year, and I've been playing with it and sticking with it, like my breaking windows thing. Um, if you don't know what I'm talking about, just go back and listen to our old episodes, particularly the one with Michael Leonard from Wicked Smart Golf,
Like it's
or the
Matt.
one I think right after that was one when I was kind
Oh,
of
the
nailing
stance.
that down. Build a stance. Um, but I've actually augmented things recently from there because I know I started to notice some things about that just weren't clicking how I wanted them to, and I
Mhm.
noticed a pattern,
There we go.
and
We're
decided,
learning.
I don't like that pattern." So, um, I have run across the idea online a few times that the ball is the target, and there's a lot of people who say this. Um,
The ball is the
the
target.
ball is the target, so your body orients its motion in relation to trying to hit the ball, essentially.
Huh.
Um, and so you're not so focused out, down the target line, which has, I think, some distinct benefits because of the nature of golf and that we stand toward to the side of the ball
Okay.
and you're not facing kind of that outward direction. Um, you're perpendicular,
Yeah.
so to speak. And so, um, there's some people that I like their take on things that I've heard say that, and so I thought I'm gonna kind of reframe things here and say, okay, the ball's my target, but calling back again to Michael Leonard and kind of mental golf type stuff. I know that I don't do well with small targets. Like I don't do well with like aim small, miss small. I'm much more of like a broad kind of guy.
Field goal guy.
So then I decided, okay, well, the ball is my target, or at least something down there near where the ball is my target, but I need something a little bit broader. I started to I thought I'm gonna focus on basically the path of the club head. Kind of just from like a 3-foot section, you know, through the ball.
Mhm.
And just kind of envisioning this little bit of arc and even sort of, the angle of that arc or the depth of that arc or how it changes into out or out to in, and just kind of seeing a little like seeing a little path. And I also played Friday and that was all I did. And it was wet, it was swampy. There was some, it's I think contact is a premium when you get into soft conditions.
Oh yeah.
And
Oh
I
yeah.
I struck the ball so good. So, like, I didn't fat or thin a single shot all day long.
Just
Like,
pure in it.
I peered it all day long. It was fantastic. This is something I've played with before, with chipping, actually, because I noticed, like, hey, I'm actually pretty good if I just kinda think about, like, the the depth that I want the club head traveling, you know, as it's swinging through the ball.
Mm,
And then I've also thought about, like, and then I can think about, like, how fast that club head swings through that section for chips to, like, control the distance.
yeah.
And so I was like, "Well, let me just that fits these things, so I'm gonna try that and kind of blow it out to the long game." And yeah, man, I played great. I think I shot, like, 75. I had, uh, 2 bogeys, a double, and a birdie, and I missed probably 6 birdie putts. The greens were pretty slow and kinda tricky to
Mhm.
read. So, I mean, I should rephrase that. I made those putts, they just didn't go in. Like, I hit them exactly how I wanted to. A bunch of them were just, like, a little short, but in the teeth, or, I lipped out 1 or 2. So, it's like, man, I played great. It was a really fun day, and that's all I was really focusing on was just like, "I'm just gonna try and sweep the club head through this section here,
Yeah.
and then just do it as fast as I can, or however fast I feel like I need to if I was trying to play, like, a partial shot or something." So and I was doing that with, I was really pleased with it, how it worked out for me on, like, distance wedges. So,
Mm,
like, that 80 to 115 range,
that
uh,
feel
that for the
area.
feel wedges. So I was consistently taking, like, because I my goal for the day was, like, I wanna try and hit all of these shots to the flag
Mm,
because most
it's
people
wet.
don't, and
Yeah.
it's wet, and I wanna try and get it at least, like, pin high. And I did on got it past the cup or pin high on most of them, which was great, and so it was it was cool. It all was clicking together really nicely, and that was my kinda new, like, "Hmm, okay, this is, I think, how I wanna stick with this and work with this for a while on, like, what I think about the target is."
Yeah.
Because I mean, I pick an intermediate target when I'm lining up, and
Mhm.
then I set up to it. I don't need to look out or think about it anymore. I'm set up. I'm good. So then it's just like, well, at that point, what's the last thing I care about is like, well, I'd like to just hit it solid because nothing pisses me off more than laying the sod over it
Yeah.
or or something or thinning it or something like that. It's like, just hit it solid. I know I can do that. And
Yeah.
if I do, most of the time it's gonna be good. So, I was really pleased with how that was going. So I also had a targety, thing that I wanna fall in love with.
Yeah, I mean, it makes a lot of sense, right? It's like the whole, like, giving up control to gain control at a certain
Sure.
the ball is on the club face for, like, a millisecond. It's
Yeah.
kinda this whole thing is, like, you really can't I mean, almost as soon as you start the swing, you can't really influence anything
Yeah.
anymore. Like, it's over. You've done all that you can do. And
Sure.
so having this idea of like the ball is the target, it makes a lot of sense because in a way, again, once you've started the whole process, it happens so quickly your brain cannot comprehend or
Yeah.
react quickly enough to like influence anything other than your most like basic primal like involuntary, motor
Yeah.
patterns.
Well,
So, yeah, I like it.
and yeah, and I mean, like, everything else that we care about, it should be done and decided before. Like, you've already pulled a club. You already should have a shot shape or whatever
Think
shot type
box,
in mind. Think box
play
should be
box.
closed, and you don't need to worry about anything beyond the ball at that
And if
point.
you are and it's something I'm trying to be better at is, like, back off, dude. If
Yeah,
if
yeah,
you're, like, walking up to a shot and thinking about, like, "Oh, man, should I really be hitting a 9 iron here?" It's like, "Oh, you
yeah.
haven't
No,
finished that
no, no.
process yet."
Yeah,
Take a second, take fi bec and I think one of the things for me personally that it, like, prevents me from doing this, like, "Oh, pace of play." It's like, well, what's better? You hitting the right club and getting it on the green, or you hitting the wrong club and then having to hit a whole ass another shot
yeah,
to get it onto the green. It's like, if we're talking pace of play, spend 15 seconds to save 2 minutes.
yeah, exactly.
Hey everyone, just wanted to jump on to thank a new sponsor of the show, Rapsodo Golf. We both recently got the new MLM2 Pro mobile launch monitor and have been using it a ton on and off the course. And we are incredibly impressed with not only the accuracy, but the versatility of the unit. Featuring a dual optical camera vision and radar processing, you can hone in on 13 different metrics, including spin rate and spin axis. And the 1 year premium membership that's included with the purchase of the MLM2 Pro provides an all new target range play mode with 72 unique target distances and 4 fairway targets, as well as simulation on over 30,000 golf courses and 2 virtual ranges. It is the perfect gift for yourself or the dedicated grinder in your life this holiday season. So be sure to check out all of the products Rapsodo has to offer by clicking the link in the show notes or in the bio of our Instagram page at Midam Podcast. Thanks again to the team at Rapsodo for being a fantastic partner of the show. So
Cool.
I like it.
Yeah.
Um, next thing on my agenda, I wrote down Carl Phillips. Are you familiar with Carl
He's the
Phillips?
all I know is he's the rookie, right? Rookie of the year? or something?
He was the Corn Ferry Tour Rookie of the Year. The
Yeah.
reason I wanted to talk about him, I've been watching Carl Phillips play golf since he was 6 years old. His dad started
Oh,
posting videos of him on YouTube playing in junior tournaments. They're from Australia. They moved to the U.S. when Carl was very young. This is probably 2008, 2009. Carl is 6 or 7 years old, and he loves golf, and he's just playing junior tournaments. And his dad is just kind of following him around, filming video, and then he posts it and just kind of does a little commentary as he's playing, as he's walking. No voiceover or anything. He's literally just like whispering into the camera, like stuff,
yeah.
whatever's going on. And really riveting. And from a very early age, Carl was incredibly talented. I mean, he's shooting like 65s at 8 years old. Um, but it's like, what tees was he playing from is my question. But anyway, like like a very talented junior player, incredibly talented junior player, highly ranked, went to Stanford, played with Theor Bjornsson, who I might be butchering his name, but he's like number one on the PGA Tour U um, list. So he's got his card locked up that way.
Mm.
But Carl, like for how prolific he was as a junior player, he did not win a college tournament until his very last college tournament, which was the Pac-12 championship. So I mean, I think a lot of people thought maybe he was a little underwhelming. Some people thought maybe he wouldn't make it as a pro, but basically in less than a year, he went from starting on the Corn Ferry Tour to winning on the Corn Ferry Tour to have like securing a PGA Tour card in like 8 months.
It's cool.
And the reason I bring it up is like, because like that dude works hard. He works it like as much he, as much expectation as there has been, I think, and it's niche. It's like it's not like a LeBron James scenario where everyone in the world knew who LeBron James was before he came into the league. Carl Phillips is pretty niche. I get it, but like he was an incredibly talented junior player. He was a good college player. Like I don't know. I've known who he obviously is for a very long time, almost a decade now, and it's cool to see him succeed. And I guess there's like two facets to this. One is like the kid works hard, the kid believes in himself, and like from my standpoint, like in the goals that I have, it's very inspirational just to see someone like not give up, even if they're not living up to their expectations necessarily. It does not define them as a player. It does not define who they will be as a player. It is like they have every opportunity to continue to live up to who they could potentially be. It's just a matter of continuing to show up. It's a matter of continuing to put in effort, and continuing to believe in yourself. And eventually it will happen. And like Carl has embodied that in this year on the Corn Ferry Tour. And it's been really fun to watch. The other aspect of it too is not something that I have or will have any firsthand experience with, but I recommend any parent of a child they hope to get into golf in any sort of competitive level, watch like go back and watch the YouTube channel, and just like take note of how his dad kind of handles the entire situation. At no point do you ever get the impression that Carl's dad is like pushing him beyond anything that like Carl himself wants to do. Like I think the way that his dad, and I don't know his name, went about the whole thing was just a really good representation of like how you be a parent first, like a parent to your child first, and then a parent to an athlete second. And I just think that whole story is it's very cool. I highly recommend anyone like look it up, kind of dig into it. It's fun. Like you can go on YouTube right now and go see a young Carl Phillips at 6 years old, just like absolutely tearing apart courses. And just see like every stage of his life. And now he's like 22 years old and he's going to be on the PGA Tour. And I suspect he'll have a pretty solid career. I don't know if he'll ever be, who can say if he'll be, elite, but like, it would not surprise me if he rattles off a couple of wins on the PGA Tour.
Cool. Yeah, that's awesome.
Last thing for me was balance and stability. Um,
Mm,
doing a lot of speed. I'm in on the speed training.
yeah.
I'm strength training, which is awful. I soar all the time. I'm doing speed training with the Mach 3 speed system right now, which has been pretty fun. I do enjoy that. Um, and then I'm going to be doing some like speed stick stuff with Ripstick here in a few weeks. But that's all to say. One thing I didn't think about was like, man, if you're gonna like try to introduce a bunch of speed, like you've got to be pretty stable, like in order to deliver a club face that is like even remotely square. It's like
Yeah.
like what good is swinging at 125 miles an hour if like if the ball is going to go 150 yards to the right or left or whatever. So that's in just like um, this isn't an ad, but kind of is. In thinking about it, I just was like started to look at like more balance and stability training aids that it's funny to me that not funny. It's interesting to me that I haven't seen um, like a ton of these systems out there, like the stack system or Ripstick or Super Speed or whatever. Um, None of them are really like pushing the stability aspect, and there isn't
Mm,
a huge like um like no one's really evangelical about stability training in general. Like there are some small parts of it in some like workout routines or whatever, but like I don't know. It was interesting to me, and so I've been looking into it. I reached out to this company called Gibbon, and they had this product called the Gibboard.
the Gibboard.
It's basically just like a skateboard, a really tall skateboard with a slack line in between,
Mhm.
and they sent a couple, one to me and one to Nathan, and I don't know, man. I spend probably combined 15 minutes a day on it, just like randomly, just kind of jumping on it, having fun with it. It's very fun. It's incredibly challenging.
Yeah.
So hard.
Yeah, it's so hard.
Um, but I'm like, man, it's like as much work as I'm going to do trying to get stronger, trying to get faster, whatever, trying to get my sequence better. It's like, man, I feel like there would have been a huge missing piece if I'm like not trying to like get my core stabilized, and really like work on that stabilization from the ground up. And
Yeah.
that's one of the things that the Gi board does really well is like you are trying to like work your stabilization from starting at your feet and ankles and then all the way up.
Yeah.
And so I'm I'm hopeful that it's all going to work out really well. But I think that like we might be buying in early into a trend of like stability training could be incredibly beneficial to your golf game, not only from like a full speed, full swing speeds scenario, but like putting and
Sure.
chipping, like where you need to try to be as stable as possible. You don't want a ton of movement.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It
There's
was
I mean,
interesting to me.
the funny thing was is I had already been looking at these myself, professionally, like looking at, using them, in my work as a chiropractor, um, helping people with, basically physical therapy stuff. But then also because I was like, "Oh, that looks pretty cool," and because I, have done a lot of reading and research over the years into proprioception and proprioceptive training. And I mean, like I probably have a bunch of I this is a nerdy thing. I have journal articles saved on my devices. But I had one that I was gonna talk about if we ever wanted to talk about like kind of the nitty gritty. That's this big systematic review. So if you don't know actual like scientific research article types, systematic review is about the best they get. Meta analysis on top of that is even better because that means they kind of like make all the different data from all the different a systematic review looks at hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of different types of research studies, all kind of on the same topic. A meta-analysis makes all of that data from all those different studies looking at different things surrounding this same topic kind of cohesive in the
Mm,
sense that like it can be packaged together to draw generalized conclusions that you can be really confident in.
mm,
Well, there are systematic reviews on proprioceptive training and how it drives it increases athletic performance. It increases physiological capacity. So like your ceiling increases.
mm,
It obviously better balance, better strength, specifically explosive strength too, which is kind of interesting.
hmm.
And and then obviously like stability, posture, things like that. And yeah, not just core, but being able to know where your body is in space and then also to be stable on the ground are two fundamentally important things for athletic endeavors
Yeah.
in general. And that's what proprioceptive training is. And that's what the skid board is. I mean, it's a slack line. And the thing that I know what you mean by like, it's not really that popularized, I would say maybe yet, but um, it's, I've, in my experience, seen it gets kind of pushed to the ends of the bell curve. Like people who are the elite of the elite do balance and proprioceptive training,
Mm,
and then the people who are the weakest of the weak do it because they have to start
that's where they have
somewhere.
to start. Yeah. Well, it's like
Um,
when Drew was talking about, if like, what would you do if you could do? And he's like, well, do the strength training stuff. And then if you have time, do the
yeah,
mobility stuff. Because
right.
a lot of the strength training stuff that you're going to do is actually also going to hit some of the mobility stuff. So
Yeah,
it's like, yeah, I guess, yeah, at a certain point, like you are, that really is like if you're looking to like really add on to stuff. But
yeah.
I don't know, my opinion is that I think it might be under, like, maybe it shouldn't be considered on the peripheral that
No,
much.
I
Maybe
mean,
it should be more
yeah,
more
if you'd have let
mainstream.
me finish, I was gonna
Sorry, I'm sorry, I'm trying to. Sorry.
No, but I was gonna say, like, in my experience, though, most people just take it for granted, and they actually
Yeah.
should be doing more of this, especially on the quote unquote weak end.
Mhm.
Um, I have this is gonna be tangential because it's not strictly golf related, but I have so many patients that have gone through rounds of PT and come back months later and they say, "Didn't help, didn't work. They gave me all these exercises. They hurt to do. I didn't do them. They didn't make me stronger. I didn't get better. No changes, whatever." And then I ask him what they were doing or what they were asking him to do, and it was stuff that's like, you shouldn't be trying to do that yet.
Right.
And I think a lot of times that's why sometimes um I think it's a big issue in many industries is we try to jump to things that are too far ahead too quickly.
Oh, dude,
And
yeah, I
yeah,
mean,
I mean
just
PT, I mean chiro's I'm sure the same. Um, Orthopedic therapy, whatever you take your pick. But um, I've had patients where I'm like, cool, let's see if you can stand on one foot, right? And
so
if you can't do that on the ground, don't tell me you're gonna be doing lunges and
yeah,
having
don't
it
do
be
deadlifts,
beneficial.
dude. Yeah.
Don't do that,
Like,
So, I am
it's
a big fan of this thing already. I've been using it a lot too, just messing around with it. You'd be surprised. I got the pro version because I wanted to use it, kinda in
I'm
office as well, and
I'm kicking myself, dude.
it has
I'm
2 slack
kicking
line.
myself.
Yeah. You would be amazed at how hard it is to simply take a golf club, stand on this thing,
Oh, I
and
mean, yeah.
just set up. Just be in your setup posture, right? And try and stand there for, like, a minute. You
A
will
minute,
hurt.
10
You will
seconds,
hurt.
dog. 10
You will
seconds. A minute, it sounds like an
it
eternity.
burns. Well, there's 2, so it's a little bit easier, a little more
Still,
stable, but
still.
still, my goodness, like, you will feel things that you're like, "I didn't know there was a muscle there," right? I've learned all the muscles, and I'm pretty sure I didn't know there was a muscle there. So it's like, it's okay. Clearly, I'm not strong there in that way. So when
Yeah,
I'm trying to resist lots of forces that are reacting from the ground, essentially,
yeah,
in the hot terms today of the ground reaction
yeah, of course.
forces, um, I'm clearly not strong enough in some of these areas to be doing that.
Right.
So,
Well,
I
and
think, yeah, I'm all in on it. I love it.
oh, dude, it's like, and beyond well, like the other thing too is like, y- we talk about a little bit how like golf parallels life and whatever, but like this type of thing, like this emphasis on stability is something that where like it's going to benefit you outside of golf, right? Like,
Absolutely.
what's the number, like when people get older, right? What is like the thing that really ends up being the nail in the coffin? And that's like maybe a little morbid because it's true. I'm like literally talking about people dying.
Yeah.
Is, as you get older, it's like when as soon as you lose mobility, it's like when, like you can have someone in their 80s that are just spry, they're doing their thing, that it's like, man, but then they get injured and then they
Yeah.
get off their feet and they're bedridden, and then it just goes downhill so quickly. It's, as soon as you stop moving, as soon as you're unable to be mobile, it's like, well, something like this prevents those types of things from happening. It's going to prevent you from falling because you're going to be more stable. I think like there's so many massive applications like beyond golf, but I do think that like this is a hugely underrepresented, undervalued aspect of like training, as we're talking about trying to gain speed and more consistency and stability. Like, I'm excited to see how this impacts,
Yeah.
my own game.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I mean, it was I said this to you the other day in text, and it's something I've kinda already been thinking about, and it was even actually in regards to something different, but, I think, people want to try and work on being more sophisticated in their different endeavors, but really what we need to do is just hammer the basics as hard as we can
Mhm.
and in turn become more sophisticated instead of just trying to be more so instead of being out there and like, you know, don't spend crazy money getting a TrackMan and like we said with Drew, like, don't blow your money on, pressure plates and things that
Don't need.
you don't understand, you don't know how to use, like, that stuff's really cool and it's really sophisticated, but also you could get what he's like, you could get a downshift board and, you know,
And
and
get the same,
get the
and like
same thing, like,
essentially get what you can get out
yeah.
of it as someone who's not like an expert in the
Yeah,
numbers.
hammer the basic thing
Yeah.
and work on your setup, work on your balance, work on your strength, that then everything else gets better as a result, and your movement gets more sophisticated as a result. So, yeah, I'm kinda in a season where I'm just like, "Man, all I really care about is, you know, the setup and how I'm approaching the game and, like, these really basic things to, like, influence everything else." So,
Yeah, I think like the big thing that like what it comes down to is us having to believe. Like, I
sure,
know, like us having to believe that we have gotten to a point where we are good enough, or we have a physical skill set that would allow us to go out and shoot 54.
sure,
Like truly, and it's hard, even hard to say that, but I think that's more of just like um it's like it's truly a mental block. Like, uh,
sure.
I think you can know that you're not going to do that, but also believe that you have the potential to do that at the same time. Those are not mutually exclusive. And it's
No.
like
Yeah,
a big part of it, and a big part of what, yeah, I think both of us need to really focus on next year is like, know that no matter what, we have the physical skill sets to go out. And not everyone can say that. If you're just starting the game, you
sure.
don't. Like, you don't. Like, it's,
But you
and
can
there's
get
nothing
there.
wrong with that. But you can get there, but you just don't right now. But I
Yeah,
know that you, and I know that I are fully capable of going to any golf course and finding a way to birdie every single hole.
yeah,
There is no question in my mind we can hit all of those shots.
yeah.
And
There's
so it's
enough stuff outside of your control that it's easy to say, "No, that won't happen." But are
sure.
we capable? Yes.
Yes.
Sure.
There's literally nothing preventing us physically from doing that, right?
Yeah.
Like
And if you're listening
under our own power.
and if you're listening and you're going, "These guys are fucking nuts," you've also played golf and you've also hit that shot where it comes off the club face and you're like, "Yep, it was perfect. That's good. It's going in." You know? You're capable of it. It's
So
in it's
you
it's
could do that
you
every
could
single
do that.
time. You could.
You
Are you going to?
probably not.
Well, here's the thing. Are you going to? No, probably not. But even if you did, that does not necessarily mean everything's going to go perfectly,
Sure.
because
Sure.
like it could hit a spike mark,
Yeah.
it could hit a sprinkler head, blah, blah, blah. There's
Yeah.
so many things like outside of your control. Even if you did everything perfectly, things could go awry.
Sure.
But
But
it's like,
could you?
yeah, if you've ever strung together a few good shots, I mean, Jesus, man, if you've ever made a birdie, right? If you've ever made
Sure.
a birdie, it means you strung together 2 to 4 very good shots, right?
Yeah.
So that means that you're capable of doing that over and over and over again. And so I think like a big part of it is just like believing, or not be it's not even expecting. It is not being surprised when it happens. Not
Sure.
being not looking for the shoe to drop when it starts to happen. And I think
Sure.
that's a big thing that I need to get over. It's like, oh wow, I just played like 6 really good holes in a row. When is this going to blow up? It's like, no, dude, like that doesn't have to happen.
Yeah.
Now, can something go awry? Sure. But are you also skilled enough to like get it right back to where you were? Yep, you are.
Yeah.
So I think like, yeah, I think a big part of that is just like understanding that like you have all of the skill sets to you have
Sure.
all the skill to
Yeah.
do it, and you just got to
Yeah.
trust in yourself. So, um, yeah, that was kind of it for me. What else did you have? Open the
I
floor to
mean, I
you.
had something kind of adjacent to that. My recent round that I was talking about, I was thinking about something while I was playing because I had so many birdie opportunities, so many. Um, and I was thinking, why don't I make more birdies? Because I just don't. Like I've
Mhm,
never been that guy that like rattles off six in a round. I think the most I've ever had in a single round was like three,
mhm.
maybe. Um,
What?
yeah,
You've had 3
honestly,
birdies in really?
yeah.
Hmm.
Like
I find that hard to believe.
at most. I've always just been a guy who, like, makes an avalanche of pars,
Hmm.
and then my good rounds, I usually just avoid more bogeys, and sometimes I run
Alright.
into a couple birdies. I used to make more when I was a little bit, when I was a little younger and a little longer and could get more par fives. Um, but yeah, no, I don't make that many, and I was trying to think about, like, why not? With as good a putter as I know I am, and, like, I hit the putts how I want to, and I give myself opportunities. So it's like, why don't I convert more often? And so I was trying to think about like, well, what am I doing? It was weird. It was like I'm trying to pay attention to what I'm doing and watch myself do the things that I'm doing while I'm doing them, and then like put that in play for the next hole. It was weird, but essentially, I kind of had this idea, come to mind of like, well, I I do stuff differently with them. Like I get up to a birdie putt and sometimes it's like I have like tangibly felt myself go, "Ugh, okay, I'm on the green, I got a birdie putt,
Mm.
no blood here, like I'll be out of here with par at worst, no big deal. I'll give this a good effort and, just try my best and if it goes, cool, if not, whatever." Then there'll be times and obviously I don't make them because I've like come down and like shifted my mentality or
Yeah.
shifted my intensity or whatever, just kind of my vibe wherever I was at. Oh, and then probably the other end of the spectrum is also, I know for a fact, been true where I'm like, this one's for birdie. I really want one back. And so I'm going to like work extra hard to try
Mm.
and make this birdie putt. Like somehow now all of a sudden this one stroke is more important and I like read it longer or I get more specific with things or really try to pay attention to the pace or whatever, and inevitably I miss it for one reason or another.
Yeah.
um and so I'm like, okay, so I think the thing is that I it's not one thing, it's just the fact that I'm changing.
Yes.
And I'm just like something in that vibe, that energy, that intensity or whatever just is a shift from the two great shots I just hit to get here, or the 10 great putts I just rolled the previous holes, right? So that had me thinking back to something else that has been running through my mind lately of like I always play the first hole like so chill and like nonchalant
Yeah.
lately, it feels like I just stand up there, slap a drive down there, wedge it on, and I'm like, I have a birdie putt usually. Like lately, it's that's how it's felt.
Hmm.
Um, and I feel like when I'm walking down the first hole or in the cart or walking to my ball or whatever, it's just like shoulders are loose and like down.
Yeah.
I don't feel like I'm like thinking a lot. I'm just kind of like, we're just starting out the round. Everything's just easy going. And then inevitably I'm like, okay, we're settling in. And now I can kind of like do more, whatever that means. Whether that's like, okay, now I'm like, I'm loose. So I'm swinging harder or I'm faster or, like somehow I end up adding and or changing off of that first whole vibe and it becomes so much harder.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, how can I just retain this like first whole vibe feels? Because it always it's been going so smoothly lately. And it's like, okay, well, that one had it lasting for like 2 or 3 holes and then something XYZ. And so what I'm narrowing in on is just the fact that that I change. Like
Yeah.
I get out there and I get going and it's good. And for whatever reason, I'm like, cool, a little bit's good, a lot's better, right?
Right.
And
Yep.
and I do
The
something,
fallacy.
do something to increase or whatever. And I need to learn to just stay,
More
right?
effort does not necessarily
Mo,
mean more speed.
more effort is not better. And so I think that's, that first whole thing, but then I think that's probably, you know, why I don't make a lot of birdies or why I sometimes um feel like I don't make the clutch shots. It's because all of a sudden it's like, well, I change because the situation is what it is and I recognize that and then I change
Yeah.
instead of just
And that's
so I
human. It's hard
yeah,
not
I
to.
mean
It's
that
not
yeah,
hard.
that's
It's hard
yeah,
not to like take in like external
sure.
context into the
Yeah,
situation. But at the end of the day, it's like, does the ball know that?
exactly. Well,
No.
and that ties into, back to the whole ball is the target thing that I was talking about and just kind of like I'm trying to going forward, I'm trying to like I want to the last thing I think about as part of my like pre-shot whatever is that like if I can boil this shot down to like the bare minimum, like strip everything out of it. So like what I was doing on the greens was like, cool, this is for birdie, it does this, is blah 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 blah. I know all this stuff intuitively. I'm not trying to tell myself that it's just in there, right? Um, but ultimately, I know I just need to pick a start line and try and roll it to the hole.
Yeah.
Okay, so cool. Think box, play box.
Yep.
Do all that stuff beforehand and then strip everything down to the nuts and bolts and then be the lug nut, right? And
Yeah.
and then build a stance and just do the simplest thing, with that just like that same
Yeah.
chill energy. So, I'm formulating already and still kind of growing and developing stuff from my goals this year and into next year. And I think I feel like people like to think of progress as like as a, as a linear line that goes up, in time. And I've often made the analogy of like, no, it's actually more like, a squiggly line, like somebody's using a yo-yo while going up and down, going upstairs. And that's true. Sometimes I feel like progress is actually more just like a circle and we're inevitably getting closer to the center, but we're kind of well now it's this thing, now it's this thing, now it's this thing, now it's this thing, but we're edging all of these things closer to the center each
Yeah.
time.
It's
So
like
I mean that's
it's
how
like
it feels lately.
it's like an ellipse, right?
Sure. Yeah. Yeah.
It's an ellipse, but like gravity is slowly pulling you to the center, so that ellipse gets a little tighter every time
Yeah.
you go around. But like you're close to it, and then you're far away, but you're not as far away as you were the last time around.
Yeah. And you'll have
And-
periods where you're further away than
Or
other
no, no,
periods
that's
where
what it
you're like,
feels like. If you're
yeah,
putting the
but you're
work in,
still
it's actually not
yeah,
true. It
but
feels like you're farther
yeah,
away, but in reality, you're actually still closer than you were the last time you were
You
that
were
far away.
exactly.
It just
Yeah.
feels far away because
Yeah.
relative you were close, like your closest is now closer than it ever was. So like
Yeah.
that is where you frame everything. It's
Yeah.
like, well, it's like we are planet Earth orbiting the sun, and in whatever 3 billion years we will be consumed by the sun because we're getting closer and closer and closer, because that's how gravity works, and that is our golf game. So golf,
Except for the
astronomy.
fact that the Earth is flat, so
Oh, that's right. I'm so sorry. I forgot about that. Oops.
if the
I
Earth
was
were flat,
indoctrinated. I was
if
indoctrinated by public school, man.
if the Earth were flat, the coolest thing you could do is tee up a ball and hit it off the edge.
Yeah, and
That would
who's
be
done
that's
that?
like
And Bryson
every
hasn't done that on
every
YouTube yet, so
every
it's not
yeah,
real.
that's right. It's not
He's
real.
gotta hit that hole in one over his house first, and then he's gonna hit one off the edge of the earth.
Every single person has taken a golf ball on a golf course and they've been like, "That's a cliff on this tee box. If I just tee it up and hit it that way, that'd be pretty cool." And they
Yep.
do it. If the earth was flat, you better believe
You
there'd be
would.
somebody who'd be like,
Someone would
"I'm
do
gonna
that.
send one
You
out
tell
that
me
way."
George W. Bush didn't, if the earth was flat, he
Yeah,
didn't hit
he'd
a
be like,
golf
"Now
ball off
watch
the
this
edge of
drive."
the earth. Now watch
Yeah.
this draft. Um, yeah, no, I think we're both on the right track. I think the other aspect of it too is that like the mental stuff is a skill, and that's something we have to learn. Like as much as the swing stuff, the mechanical stuff, the physical stuff is a skill, the mental stuff is a skill, and it takes like practice, it takes reps, it takes deliberate intention to make changes from the mental side. And so like understand that, and like give yourself some grace when you're not perfect every time, but B, also like make it an intentional part of your like training regime. Is like, hey, try to like, even in your practice, try to implement these kind of like mental reps, to say
Yeah.
like, hey, I'm going to be target focused. I'm going to disassociate from the result, like those types of things. So that's something that I know we're both working on, and we suggest you work on too. Yeah, I think that kind of covers it for this week's Chop Sesh.
Yeah.
If if you're enjoying what you're listening to, please make sure you're subscribed. Please leave us a review. Please share this with your friends who are also into golf. Like I think next year is like going to be a big year for us, like personally in our golf games, and I also think for the podcast. Like I have a feeling some good things are going to happen. So you guys, if you're listening right now, you're in on the ground floor. Invest early. Put all the Dogecoin into Mid-Am Podcast, because it's going to pay dividends. I promise you.
That's right.
You can find us on Instagram at Mid-Am Podcast. You can find me personally at Fade and Fairway. You can find Nathan at nathan.furmasu and Thistle Leather Goods. Check out our birdie-a-thon. I think we may have gotten an extra pledge. And I got 3 more birdies on Friday. So
got one.
we gotta update that.
I hit the sauciest 4-iron from like 195. It was wet and cold. Calm down. To 15 feet on the last hole. It's a par
That's
5.
like 230 adjusted,
Yeah. Oh my
assholes.
goodness. It was crispy and left the eagle putt. Oh no, actually I did hit it past. I
There you go.
hit it there. It just
You
didn't
gave it
break
a
how I
run.
thought it was. I
It's okay.
kicked in a birdie,
Easy
but the
birds. We
4-iron
love kicking
was
birds.
chef's kiss.
Money. Yeah, so be sure to check that out. You heard it here first, folks. We're trying to plan a Mid-Am event next year, so watch this space. That's all I can say. It's going to be fun. Yeah, I guess until next week, we'll talk to you then. Bye.
Peace.